and without interruption, peacefully demonstrate. I'm going to call our speakers to the stage, and I want you all to not be distracted by interruption. And I know everybody out here are not necessarily beholden to a religious church, but I want you to do this. I want you to oblige me. In the spirit of the black church, I want you to look at your neighbor and say, friend, neighbor, brother, sister, comrade.
Hey, that's my name though. What's up?
Don't be distracted by interruption. Tell them again, don't be distracted by interruption. I want you to tag 3 people around you and tell them, don't be distracted by interruption.
Don't be distracted by interruption, bro. Don't be distracted.
Black lives matter!
Black lives matter!
Black lives matter!
Black lives matter!
Put them up! Black lives matter!
Black lives
Put them
matter!
up! Black lives matter!
Black lives
Let me
matter!
hear it! Black lives matter!
Black lives matter!
Say Black lives matter!
Black lives matter!
Calling to the stage, people for change.
Black lives have always mattered. Black lives will continue to be anti-racist. When Angela Davis spoke these words, she shifted the entire country with the verbalization of an undeniable truth. Citizens of Graham, Alamance, North Carolina, and the United States as a whole, I challenge you to peer into the looking glass and ask yourself, am I the change that I wish to see in the world? Am I denouncing racism in word alone, or do my deeds combat the nation's deadliest pandemic in history? People for Change and our friends at the Underground Railroad, we're dedicated not only in word, but in deed to fighting against social injustice. We take to the streets day in and day out, give benevolently to those in need, and place ourselves in harm's path in order to advocate for people of color. We could sit at home and enjoy a life of normalcy, but we're here. And why are we here, do you ask? Let's commence by addressing the county's moniker, No Chance Alamance. This stems from the assassination via the lynching of Graham, North Carolina's first black commissioner, Wyatt Outlaw, only 30 yards away from this historic courthouse. He had no chance. However, his Ku Klux Klan assassins had a chance. They had a chance that allowed them to prevaricate the consequences of their murderous actions. In fact, they were celebrated and honored with a Confederate statue. Some people call it a monument, but it's just a statue. And they were portrayed, these common criminals, these common thugs were portrayed as beacons of light in this community. Here it still stands, and it is here that PFC believes it will fall. This statue is merely symbolic of the ideals widely celebrated in this community and communities around this nation at large. Statues akin to this one empower black citizens to take the law into their own hands, as did their forefathers, and rewrite the Constitution at will. As reported by Alamance News, as they call themselves, 18 protesters versus 0 racist agitators were arrested by the Sheriff's Department during a recent protest. This is not a coincidence, neither is it an anomaly. These law officials, quote unquote, they threaten black people and allies alike with AR-15s, snipers, drones, the beating sticks of old, and they even stoop to blatant physical assault. They failed to acknowledge the black citizens' cry for help when victimized by imminent danger. The U.S. should not be associated with such bigotry. However, I understand that it must be difficult to hold criminals accountable when you're the one holding the smoking gun. Adding insult to injury, there's George Zimmerman, Dylan Roof, Cal Rittenhouse, Karen, and Pastor Pat Chisenhall, who shot his own son-in-law, 4 times in the back, twice in the front, but he shot him laying on his stomach, shot him in the back. He claimed that he was threatened, and the law took his side and never held anyone constitutionally to be accountable. People for Change in the Underground Railroad will say his name along with the countless names of others that we've lost. We will make our voices heard unapologetically. As Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. But what we say is injustice anywhere, and PFC will be there.
Not be shaken. That's right. We are here today, marching, voting, in pursuit of justice for our son Christian. Let me tell you Christian's story. October the 12th, 2013, our son Christian was gunned down by his father-in-law on his front porch. I lost my oldest and only son. Christian went to pick up his daughter as planned for months. Christian called his father, stating that his father-in-law was using profanity at him. The F word, Reverend Chisenhall. My husband told Christian, I'm on the way. And upon his arrival, 5 minutes later, 3 to 4 miles down the road, he found Christian lying face down on his father-in-law's front porch, shot 6 times. Christian was a remarkable son, a North Carolina State student, a patriot, a combat veteran, who served our country honorably and heroically in Iraq. He survived war just to come home and to be gunned down on his father-in-law's front porch for being a father to his daughter. He was shot 6 times, once in the shoulder, once in the stomach. And when he was incapacitated, Reverend, if you want to call him that, Pat Chisenhall stood over his black son and shot him 4 times in the back when he was lying face down. He pulled the trigger 4 times in his lower back. D.A. Stewart in Harnett County. He will go down in history for one of the most horrific injustices in Harnett County. Pat Chisenhall fabricated a story, and the DA and the sheriff bought it. There was no break-in, there was no threat, there was no restraining order, but they knew all of this. D.A. Stewart chose to turn a blind eye to justice and allow a white pastor to murder an unarmed black man and give a false narrative. The medical examiner called Christian death a homicide, but the Harnett County Sheriff Department called Pat Chisenhall on the incident report. He called him the victim. And then he said the weapon that Christian used was his hands. We all have weapons today, I guess, our hands. My husband was the first on the scene because Christian called him. I arrived shortly afterwards. I looked around at the scene and said, why would this man have shot my son? There was no broken glass. The blinds were closed. There was patio furniture on the porch. One of the deputies came down and said they were taking my son to Wake Med. We immediately got in our car, our private vehicle, and followed the ambulance to Wake Med. The Harnett County Sheriff Department was still on the scene. They had it taped off when we left with the yellow tape. In pursuit of our civil trial, we obtained the DA and the sheriff file, which we had to fight. We had to fight all the way to the appellate court twice. But when we got the files, we understood why. Because the pictures of the crime scene looked nothing what we saw on the day of the crime, of the shooting. The pictures that they had in their files showed broken windows, bust-out windows. The blinds were severely mangled. The furniture on the porch was thrown off. But during the trial, the CSI investigator testified he didn't find Christian fingerprints anywhere. There was no bullet holes in the blind. There was no bullet holes in the siding. There was no bullet holes anywhere. But this man said he stood across the room inside of his home and shot out on the front porch into my son's back, and they bought it. The 911 call. Pat called 911, not knowing that his daughter was already on the phone with 911. So she was saying Christian was a threat, but Pat was calling and said he was shooting Christian at the same time. So during this call, you don't hear no threats. You don't hear any break-ins, nothing breaking, and you don't even hear gunshots, I'm sorry. This is a 12 to 1,300 square foot home. He said he shot 6 times from inside of that home. But when they found the shell casings, they were behind a chair, 3 of them neatly together, and the other 3 they couldn't find. Josh Stein, the Attorney General, he can intervene for the murder, the corruption, and the obstruction of justice by law enforcement in our son's case.
Yes, he can.
Pat Chisenhall should be in jail instead of pastoring at his church, being with his family, sleeping in his bed at night. He took a life and he went home. Josh Stein, appoint a special prosecutor right now. It's long overdue. We're looking for the truth. Woo! Harnett County is known, probably just like this county, is known for corruption. You ask the surrounding counties, everybody will tell you that. So the citizens, our family, were trapped in a systemic racist system without an avenue to be heard or to obtain justice. That's why we're here today. The jurors in the trial, the civil suit, they said Pat did not kill our son in self-defense. Forensic experts who reviewed the file and private investigators all came to the conclusion there's no way the shooting could have happened as Pat Chisenhall said. We vote today for Christian, for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor, for all those who came and died on the police and for systemic racism. That's why it's important, listen to me, it's important that you vote for the DA, the sheriff, your commissioners. They are that motion. That's why my son don't have justice, because of the systemic racism in this county, from the DA, the sheriff's office. Not only them, your legislators, the senators, the congresspersons, because of the law, the sheriff's department and the DA, they're the ones that can invite they're the only ones that can invite the FBI and the sheriff and the attorney generals in. But guess what? Who's going to invite them to investigate their corrupt? Because they're corrupt. We got to change that law. Thank you. This should not be Christian story.
Say his name. Say it again.
Christian Greg.
Say it louder.
Christian Greg.
Say it prouder.
Christian Greg.
All right. I give you the mayor of Burlington, North Carolina. Your mayor of Burlington is standing with us. Mayor Ian.
Good afternoon. Before I begin, I want to, on behalf of democracy, extend an invitation to anyone who is sitting off away from the courthouse that you have safe your right in democracy to join us here.
That's right.
It is my honor to serve the city of Burlington as mayor for 3 terms now, not as a politician, but as a public servant. And we are here for change, which happens through our right to vote. And we know here in Alamance County, we need to vote. Because so many of our councils, mine included, so many of our commissions do not reflect the beautiful color that you reflect before us. And it is that beautiful color, the beautiful people of our community who love our community, who shape our community, who change our community and rend it from itself to what it needs to be, because you are that community. And today, we are here to do that through voting. And I will close with saying again, thank you. You are that change, and your vote is moving us there. Thank you.
I am
Because we are
because we are
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
We are our living ancestors.
We
are our ancestors.
are our ancestors.
They are within us. They are guiding us. They are protecting us. They are showing us the way, and we are not alone. We are not alone. Revolutionary love is giving thanks to giants whose shoulders we are standing on.
Come on now.
Revolutionary love is giving thanks to living legends who are locking arms with. To all of us who are still organizing around Emancipation Proclamation. Abraham Lincoln said, and I quote, "If I can keep slavery and still preserve the Union, I would." So now we must understand, why did he free slaves? It was a tactic to win the war. He only freed the slaves in the Confederate territories. He didn't free the slaves in the North. No, it was about the economy. Their number one economy was produced off the backs of our ancestors. Was produced by the wombs of black women. So slavery didn't end, it just devolved into a different form it is today. When slave catchers and slave patrols were told to protect and serve the slave master's property, guess what happened to them?
Don't get distracted.
Guess what happened to them when slavery was emancipated? That's right, they became the pigs. They became police officers.
That's right.
Know your history so that you understand the present moment we're living in. It has not ended, it devolved into a different form we see today. We must say the names of our ancestors in this space. I want for the next 15 seconds for all of us to say the names of loved lost ones. People who are in our family, people who we might not know, but we want to say their names the next 15 seconds. Everybody, say the names of people who you lost or people who we lost for the next 15 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Malcolm X, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, George Floyd, Walter Wallace, Christian Briggs. Keep going, Kwame Ture, Fred Hampton, Jesus, right? Muhammad, right? Buddha. To all the names that were said, to all the names that weren't said, to all the names that we know, to all the names that we don't know. We are one. We are one. God, universe, higher energy, whatever you want to call it. Please allow them to lift us up when we feel down. Allow them to pour into us when we feel empty. Allow them to give us energy when we feel tired. We are collective power.
Yes, we are.
On the count of 3, I want us all to have the deepest inhale we had all day. 1, 2, 3. And exhale any stress, any fear, any negativity, any anxiety. Let it go. Let it go. Let's do that one more time. On the count of 3, let's have the deepest inhale we had in our entire lives. 1, 2, 3. Let go of any fear, any stress, and anxiety. This is collective power. This is collective breath. This is collective peace. We are not afraid to get locked up. We are not afraid to die for this movement. We are not afraid to die for this. But I'm here to tell y'all today that we must now live for this movement. We must live for the revolution. It's a lot harder to do that, y'all.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot harder to live for the movement. It means you must take care of yourself. It must mean you should read and study, meditate, and pray when no one is looking.
That's right.
When the cameras are gone,
Yes.
when the crowd isn't here,
Yes.
what are you saying to yourself?
Right.
That's why they say the revolution will not be televised.
Come on tonight.
Because it's an internal revolution.
Yes.
It's a revolution of the heart. It's a revolution of the mind. It's a revolution that no one can see, but they can feel it.
Yes. Yes.
Angela Davis said, anyone who wants to change the world must first learn how to take care of themselves. Self-care is radically progressive. 1960s. But now, folks, it's 2020, and the house is still burning. MLK said that he was afraid we might have to be firefighters. Well, we cannot waste our time anymore trying to put out this hellfire. but we must channel the spirit of Harriet Tubman and effectively bring us to the promised land. We must have a safe space to bring our people to. We cannot tell the people to leave when we have been conditioned and socialized and programmed to be dependent on this house on the prairie. We must love and protect one another. We must no longer put our energy in burning shit down. We must no longer put our energy in trying to dismantle this house because it's going to burn down regardless. But what we must do, we must build within our cohorts. So we cannot tell folks to leave the system that they are enslaved by until we have a promised land or an equitable system that we can provide, sustain, and protect by any means necessary. I'm wrapping up soon. Thank y'all for being patient with me.
You got this, Adon. Take your time. Take your time.
We have all been conditioned and socialized to have the same narrative and the same understanding to why we think people are poor, to why we think people don't have the same outcomes that we have. We are all socialized and conditioned no matter our race, gender, race, or creed. We all have implicit biases that are racial, implicit biases that are sexist. But we must first be aware of them in order for us to make the change. Because we must be the change we want to see in the world.
That's good, that's good.
And as I close, I want to speak a little bit about some of these flags you guys see around us. Our current American flag represents the Declaration of Independence. It symbolizes the inequities and disparities because it did not include the people of color, it did not include the women or other marginalized identities when it was written. It was created to give advantages to a selective few and a disadvantage for others. And in order for them to survive, it must assimilate to white supremacy. It must assimilate to that sexism, to that racism, without them even realizing they're doing it. That's why I said the revolution will not be televised. That's why it's an internal revolution. Well, our Declaration of Independence has these 3 points. People have certain inalienable rights. People have certain inalienable rights, including life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. All people are created equal. All people are created equal. And the third is individuals have a civic duty to defend these rights for themselves and others. So again, these flags that you see, these flags mean regardless of our religion, race, gender, class, or any social constructs, we are united. The people united will never be defeated. 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 And I want to end with this quote by a black woman. Repeat after me. It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other.
We must love each other.
Support each other.
And support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Ashada Shakur.
Yeah.
Ubuntu.
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 Ubuntu.